Chosen one, did you just wake up this morning wondering if God forgot your address? Have you spent the last decade watching everybody else get their breakthrough while you're still stuck in the same house, the same routine, the same crushing disappointment? Are you tired of praying prayers that feel like they're bouncing off your bedroom ceiling at 3 a.m.? Stop right there. God just said it tomorrow. Pack everything. I know what you're thinking. I'm 72 years old. My knees don't work like they used to. My children barely call. What am I supposed to pack? Where am I supposed to go? But listen to me carefully, beloved, when I say God whispered tomorrow. I'm not talking about you dragging suitcases to the Greyhound station by sunrise. I'm talking about something so much deeper, so much more earth-shattering that if you miss it, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been. You know that feeling you've been carrying? That restlessness in your chest that won't let you sleep? That quiet knowing that something's about to shift, but you're terrified because you've been disappointed so many times before? That's not your imagination. That's God packing your spirit for the move He's been planning since before you took your first breath. See, most people think packing means possessions. But what if God wants you to pack your faith, your courage, your last bit of hope, and leave behind the bitterness, the regret, the voice that keeps whispering, "You're too old, you're too late, you're too broken"? Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. But right now, if something inside you is already trembling, if your spirit recognizes this word before your mind can explain it, I need you to do something. Type in the comments, "I'm packing my faith for tomorrow." Because in the next hour, I'm going to show you exactly what you must pack, what you must leave behind, and the one deadly mistake that will cancel the move God's orchestrating right now. The clock in heaven just struck midnight. Tomorrow is here. Are you ready to pack? How many dates have you circled on your calendar, waiting for something miraculous to happen, only to watch that day come and go like every other meaningless Tuesday? How many times have you sat in a doctor's waiting room, staring at the clock, wondering if this is all your life has become, waiting for appointments, waiting for test results, waiting for children who never call? Tell me the truth, chosen one, have you stopped believing that God keeps His promises because you've been waiting so long you've forgotten what you were even waiting for? Listen to me carefully. When God says tomorrow, He's not talking about the next rotation of the earth. He's talking about divine interruption. He's talking about the moment when everything you thought was settled suddenly becomes unsettled. He's talking about the split second when heaven's calendar overrides your disappointed expectations. Turn with me to Exodus chapter 12. The Israelites had been enslaved in Egypt for 430 years. 430 years. That's not a bad decade. That's not even a rough lifetime. That's generation after generation, born into bondage, dying in bondage, never seeing freedom. Fathers telling sons, God promised Abraham, but I guess he forgot about us. But then, one night, God spoke through Moses. Exodus 12:10 says, "This same night is a night of watching kept to the Lord by all the people of Israel throughout their generations." One night, after 430 years of silence, God said, "Tomorrow you leave. Pack everything. Eat with your sandals on. Don't even wait for your bread to rise. Tomorrow I move." Do you understand what that means for you right now? You've been circling dates on calendars your whole life, haven't you? Surgery dates. Anniversary dates that nobody remembers anymore except you. The date your spouse died. The date your last child moved out and the house went silent. The date you retired and suddenly felt invisible. The date Social Security started coming and you realized, this is it. This is what you've got left. And every single one of those dates you hoped. Maybe this year will be different. Maybe this Christmas they'll call. Maybe this doctor's appointment will bring good news. Maybe this Sunday at church, someone will finally see me, really see me. But the date came, and nothing changed. And that disappointment, oh beloved, that disappointment cuts deeper than any physical pain, because it's the slow death of hope. The enemy has been using those circled dates against you. He's been whispering in your ear every time another meaningless day passes. See, nothing special is ever going to happen for you again. You're done. You're in God's waiting room, killing time until He calls you home. Your best years are behind you. Your purpose expired with your youth. That is a lie straight from the pit of hell. When God says tomorrow, He's declaring that every day you survived, every disappointment you endured, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if anyone cared, none of it was wasted. Every single moment was preparation. The waiting wasn't punishment, it was positioning. You think those 430 years in Egypt were wasted? God was using that time to multiply a family of 70 into a nation of millions. You think those hospital stays were meaningless? God was building endurance in you that your grandchildren will desperately need to witness. You think those lonely nights were abandonment? No, beloved. God was teaching you to hear His voice above the noise, so when He finally says tomorrow, you'll recognize it's Him. Here's what will wreck you when you finally understand it. Everything you survived is the reason He's moving you now, not the reason He skipped you. The heartbreak didn't disqualify you, it equipped you. The loss didn't diminish you, it deepened you. The years didn't waste you, they refined you. Moses was 80 years old when God said, tomorrow. Sarah was 90 when she conceived. Caleb was 85 when he said, give me this mountain. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your certification that you can handle what's coming. But here's what most people miss, and this is critical. In Scripture, every time God said tomorrow, people had to pack differently. The Israelites couldn't pack their Egyptian chains. Moses couldn't pack his excuses. Joshua couldn't pack his fear. And you, chosen one, can't pack what God is telling you to leave behind. In just a few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what you must pack and what you must abandon. But if you miss that pattern, if you try to drag your old identity into your new season, you'll abort the move before it even begins. If you've ever circled a date on your calendar and felt absolutely nothing happen, I need you to do something right now. Don't just think it, speak it. Whisper it out loud right where you are. Lord, don't let me miss your tomorrow. Say it. Let your voice break the silence. Because what I'm about to show you next will reveal why some people pack everything and still go nowhere, and why others pack almost nothing and shake nations. Listen to me carefully, beloved. What I'm about to show you will shatter every excuse you've been using to stay stuck. Because when God decides to move you, He doesn't ask for permission. He gives you one word: pack. You think this is the first time God has asked someone to start over at an age when everyone else is settling down? You think you're the first person to hear heaven whisper tomorrow when your body is screaming too late. Let me take you back 3,000 years. There's an old man named Abraham, 75 years old. That's retirement age, even in ancient times. His hands are weathered, his knees crack when he stands. He's got a comfortable life in Ur of the Chaldees. Nice house, family nearby. Everything predictable. Everything safe. And then God shows up. Genesis 12:1. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to a land I will show you." Did you catch that? God didn't give him a map, didn't give him an address, didn't give him a timeline or a GPS coordinate, just said, "Pack everything and go to a place I'll show you later." Abraham packed with wrinkled hands and uncertain eyes. Every neighbor thought he'd lost his mind. His own family whispered behind his back. The old man's finally cracked. But Abraham understood something that you need to understand right now. When God says move, you don't need to see the destination. You just need to trust the voice. Some of you are Abraham with arthritis. You're sitting there thinking, "I'm too old to start over. I'm too tired to believe in new beginnings." But God specializes in using people the world has written off. Now, let me take you to Egypt. 400 years of slavery. An entire generation born in chains, lived in chains, expected to die in chains. And then, one night, Exodus 12:11, God tells them, "Eat with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Tomorrow, you're out. Be ready." Think about what they had to pack, beloved. Not just clothes and cooking pots. They had to pack unhealed memories. Trauma of slavery, the scars on their backs from Egyptian whips, the fear of the unknown, the terror of leaving the only life they'd ever known, even if it was a life of suffering. You know what that feels like, don't you? You've been in slavery too. Maybe not to Pharaoh, but to disappointment, to bitterness, to the voice that keeps telling you nothing ever changes. And God is saying the same thing to you tonight. Pack it all. Tomorrow, we're moving. But here's what breaks my heart. Most people would rather stay in familiar bondage than risk the uncertainty of freedom. Let me show you one more. Noah. Genesis 6:14. Make yourself an ark. Stop and think about this. There's never been rain. The entire concept of a flood is ridiculous. Noah is building a massive boat on dry land while his neighbors laugh, while his reputation crumbles, while everyone thinks he's absolutely insane. But he packs that ark anyway, 2 by 2, day after day, year after year. You've made choices your family called crazy, haven't you? Turning back to God at this age when they think you should just relax and stop being so religious. Forgiving someone who destroyed you when everyone says you have a right to stay bitter. Giving generously when your bank account is already thin. But that's the pattern, chosen one. When God is preparing to move, He asks you to do things that look foolish to everyone watching. Different time, different country, different century. Same God. Same pattern. When He's about to move, there's always a packing season. But here's what you need to understand. God won't move you while your heart is scattered like unpacked boxes all over the floor. You can't drag yesterday's disappointments into tomorrow's promise. You can't pack the grudge you've been nursing for 15 years and expect God to bless your new beginning. You can't stuff your suitcase with, "What if I fail again?" and wonder why heaven's door stays closed. Abraham had to pack his faith, not his doubts. The Israelites had to pack their hope, not their complaints. Noah had to pack his obedience, not the mockery of his neighbors. What are you packing, beloved? Because I'm going to tell you something that might sting. Most people get this completely wrong. They pack the wrong luggage into the next season and then wonder why nothing changes. They carry resentment when God said, "Bring gratitude." They carry fear when God said, "Bring expectation." They carry the voice of everyone who said they'd fail when God said, "Bring only my voice." You've been packing the wrong things for years. That's why you keep circling the same mountain. That's why every new beginning feels like the same old ending. But in the next part, we're going to unpack what exactly God wants you to pack for your tomorrow. And I promise you, when you get this right, everything shifts. So let me ask you this. If God showed up at your door tonight and said, "Tomorrow we're moving," what would you grab first? Your faith or your fear? Your hope or your history? Your trust in me or your trust in what you can see? Because, beloved, the packing list is about to change your life. Now hold on. Before you start calling your real estate agent or telling your grandkids you're moving to Florida, let me stop you right there. Listen to me carefully, beloved. I am not telling you to sell your house. I am not telling you to quit your job, pack a U-Haul, or make some wild decision by tomorrow morning. That is not God. That is recklessness. And God is a God of order, not chaos. 1 Corinthians 14:40 says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." So what am I talking about when I say God whispered, "Pack everything"? I'm talking about your heart, your faith, your spirit. The parts of you that have been scattered across 70 years of living, broken across decades of disappointment, buried under mountains of regret you've never dealt with. See, when God says pack, He's not asking you to box up your furniture. He's asking you to gather every piece of your faith that's been lying around like loose change. He's asking you to collect testimonies you forgot you even had. He's telling you to pull your forgiveness out of the back of the closet where you shoved it 20 years ago because it hurt too much to look at. You know that closet in your house? The one where everything goes to die. Old photos you can't throw away but can't look at. Boxes of stuff from people who aren't here anymore. Broken things you keep thinking you'll fix someday. Your heart has a closet just like that. And right now, God is standing in front of it, arms crossed, foot tapping, waiting for you to finally open that door. Because here's the truth that's going to sting a little. You cannot walk into God's tomorrow dragging all of yesterday's unprocessed, unpacked, unhealed mess behind you. You just can't. The weight will kill you before you get there. Think about it. How many of you are still carrying anger at children who moved away and forgot to call? How many Sunday dinners did you cook for empty chairs? And instead of releasing them to their own lives, you packed that bitterness into your heart and carried it for years. How many of you are still holding on to friendships that ended wrong? That sister you haven't spoken to in 15 years over something so small you can barely remember what started it. That friend from church who hurt you. And now every time you see them, you feel that old wound open up fresh. How many of you are dragging around regrets about your marriage? Things you said, things you didn't say, nights you went to bed angry, mornings you woke up lonely even though someone was lying right next to you. How many of you look back at your career and think, I wasted 40 years? How many of you lie awake replaying missed chances, wrong turns, moments when you said no to God because you were scared? That's the closet, beloved. And it's so full you can barely close the door anymore. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't punishment. God is not loading you down with more weight. He's asking you to finally set it down. He's saying, pack what you need. Leave what's killing you. Philippians 3:13 says, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. You cannot reach forward with both hands full of backward. God is not asking you to pack your pain. He's asking you to pack your faith, not your failures, your testimonies, not your regrets, your resilience. He's asking you to pack the memory of that night He met you in your darkest hour. Pack the morning you should have died but didn't. Pack the miracle you stopped talking about because people stopped believing you. Pack the moment you felt His presence so strong you just knew He was real. That's what goes in the bag, chosen one. That's what makes the journey. And I need you to hear this because it's going to change everything. God is not punishing you with this packing. He is honoring you. He trusts you enough to say, I'm moving you, and I know you can handle getting ready in time. Most people never get this invitation. Most people coast into eternity with their closet still full, their heart still cluttered, their faith still scattered. But not you. Not today. In the next part, I'm going to walk you through 4 specific bags every chosen one must pack if they want to be ready for tomorrow. And I'm warning you now, one of them is going to be the hardest thing you've ever picked up in your entire life. But if you're still here, if you're still listening, just type it or whisper it right now. Lord, help me pack my heart, not just my house. Because tomorrow is not about changing your address. It's about changing your destiny. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. God didn't whisper tomorrow so you could show up empty-handed. He's calling you to pack, but not clothes. Not silverware from your mother's china cabinet. Not photo albums gathering dust in the attic. You're packing 4 bags that will determine whether you walk into your divine tomorrow or die in your yesterday. And I'm going to tell you exactly what goes in each one. Let's go bag by bag. Bag has shown. Faith. Here's the hard truth nobody wants to say out loud. Faith is the first thing to get scattered when life hits hard. You prayed for your husband's cancer to be healed. He died anyway. You begged God to save your marriage. Divorce papers came instead. You cried out for your children to return to church. They stopped calling altogether. And somewhere between the funeral home and the empty bedroom, between the medical bills and the lonely Sunday mornings, your faith didn't disappear. It just got buried under disappointment so heavy you can barely breathe. But look at me right now. The fact that you're watching this message, The fact that something made you click on this video, the fact that you're still here after everything hell threw at you, that's proof. Your faith is not dead. It's just tired. Romans 12:3 says, God has given to every person a measure of faith. Not a truckload, not a warehouse full, a measure, just enough. And beloved, even mustard seed faith, Matthew 17:20, the tiniest, most pathetic little speck of belief can move mountains that have been blocking your family for generations. So right now, I want you to put your hand on your chest. Feel that heartbeat. Say it with me. I still believe, even if I don't understand. Pack it. Don't leave it behind. Bag #2, forgiveness. For some of you, this is the heaviest bag you'll ever carry, and I know why. Your daughter took your savings and disappeared. Your son hasn't visited in 3 years, but shows up when he needs money. Your church, the place you tithed to for 40 years, asked you to step down because you're too old for ministry. Your best friend spread lies about you and turned half the congregation against you, and you've been carrying that poison in your heart like it's your right. Like bitterness is the only thing keeping you warm at night. Like rage is the only proof that what they did to you actually mattered. But here's what nobody told you. You can't walk into tomorrow with yesterday's chains. Hebrews 12:15 warns us, see to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become defiled. That word defiled. In the original Greek, it means poisoned, contaminated, ruined from the inside out. I'm not asking you to feel like forgiving. I'm asking you to choose to pack it anyway. Say this with me right now. Lord, I don't feel like forgiving, but I choose to pack it anyway. Pack it. Don't leave it behind. Bag #3, obedience. Now, listen to me closely, because this is where most people get it twisted. God is not asking you to climb mountains. He's not demanding you start a megachurch at 75. He's not requiring you to sell everything and move to Africa. Sometimes, most times, He's asking you to simply answer when He nudges. Call someone you haven't called. That name that keeps coming to your mind at 2 a.m., that's not random. Go back to church, or that small group you quit attending. I know it's hard when your arthritis flares up, when driving at night scares you, when you feel invisible in a room full of younger families. Go anyway. Start praying out loud again, instead of just thinking prayers in your head. You want to know what terrifies hell? It's not the 25-year-old with big dreams and a podcast. It's the 70-year-old who has been through the fire and still says, "Yes, Lord." 1 Samuel 15:22 says it plain. To obey is better than sacrifice. Obedience at 70 is just as powerful, more powerful than obedience at 17. Because you're not obeying out of youthful enthusiasm. You're obeying out of tested, proven, refined faith. Pack it. Don't leave it behind. Bag #4, expectation. This is the bag many older believers threw away years ago, and I understand why. You expect bad news from the doctor. Another prescription you can't afford. Another bill that wipes out what's left of your savings. Another holiday where your kids are too busy to visit. Another year of the same pain, the same loneliness, the same crushing disappointment. But God says, pack expectation instead. Psalm 62:5 declares, For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my expectation is from Him. Not from your social security check. Not from your children finally getting their act together. Not from a miracle lottery ticket. From Him. Here's the line I need you to write on your heart. Expectation is the suitcase that miracles ride in on. When you stop expecting God to move, you've already packed for defeat. When you stop believing He's still working behind the scenes, you've chosen to die in your Egypt instead of marching toward your promised land. So pack it. Wake up tomorrow morning and whisper, God, I expect you to show up today in ways I can't predict. Pack that bag heavy with hope. Pack it. Don't leave it behind. Now, I've told you what to pack. Faith, forgiveness, obedience, expectation. 4 bags that will determine whether tomorrow breaks you or makes you. But here's what I haven't told you yet, and this is critical. There's one thing you absolutely cannot pack. If you do, it will poison everything else. It will contaminate your faith, corrupt your forgiveness, sabotage your obedience, and strangle your expectation. This one thing is why some of your past tomorrows never worked out. Why you've tried to move forward before, but ended up right back where you started. What is it? What's the one deadly thing you must leave behind? Now listen to me, chosen one. We need to talk about something that's going to sting. But I'm saying it because I love you too much to let you miss what God's about to do. Do not pack your bitterness. Do not pack the identity of the one God forgot. I know that hits hard. I know some of you just felt your chest tighten because you've been carrying that weight for so long. It almost feels like part of who you are. But beloved, bitterness is not your identity. It's your prison. Let me paint you a picture of what bitterness really looks like. Bitterness walks with a limp and a long memory. It replays every conversation where someone dismissed you. It rehearses every moment your children didn't call on your birthday. It rewrites every disappointment until your heart stops being a sanctuary and becomes a courtroom where you're both the prosecutor and the judge, running the same case over and over again. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That funeral where your own family barely acknowledged you. That Christmas when the phone never rang. That moment you realized your best friend moved on without you. That day the doctor said the words that changed everything. That afternoon you buried your spouse and came home to an empty house that stayed empty ever since. Here's what breaks my heart. You've had more years for people to hurt you. You've had more decades for life to disappoint you. You've had more time to accumulate wounds that never quite healed right. That's why older believers can be some of the sweetest, most compassionate people you'll ever meet, or the sourest, most isolated souls who died long before their body stopped breathing. The Bible says in Hebrews 12:15, "See to it that no one falls short of the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many." Notice that word, root. Bitterness doesn't just sit on the surface. It grows down deep, wrapping itself around your heart until you can't tell where the pain ends and you begin. Job had every reason to be bitter. He lost his children, his wealth, his health, everything except a wife who told him to curse God and die. But in Job 23:10, even from the ash heap he declared, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Job refused to let bitterness define his story. But you want to know the real poison of bitterness. It doesn't just hurt you. It kills your tomorrow before tomorrow even arrives. Because when you pack bitterness for the journey God's calling you to, you're bringing the very weight that will stop you from moving when He says move. Think about the children of Israel leaving Egypt. God delivered them from 400 years of slavery with signs and wonders. But what happened? Numbers 11:5 tells us they started complaining. "We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic." They were so bitter about their present discomfort that they romanticized their slavery. They wanted to go back to chains because at least the chains were familiar. That's what bitterness does. It makes you fall in love with your pain. It convinces you that your suffering is your identity. It whispers that if you let go of the hurt, you'll have nothing left. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many people have you pushed away because you were waiting for them to hurt you first? How many opportunities did you sabotage because you didn't believe you deserved good things anymore? How many times did God open a door and you walked past it because you were too busy rehearsing old wounds to notice new mercies? Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Some of you have been bitter for so long that you don't know who you'd be without it. You've built your whole personality around being the one who got overlooked, the one who got abandoned, the one who got betrayed. And now God's saying, pack for tomorrow, but you can't even imagine what tomorrow looks like without your bitterness coming along for the ride. Right here, right now, heaven is handing you a choice. And I need you to understand, that this choice will determine everything that happens next in your life. Pack your bitterness and stay exactly where you are. Keep rehearsing the past. Keep nursing those wounds. Keep telling yourself the story where you're always the victim and God is always late. Die with that suitcase clutched in your arms, wondering why nothing ever changed. Or leave it on the floor. Walk away from it. Step into tomorrow lighter than you've been in 20 years. Ephesians 4:31-32 gives you permission to let it go. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Just as Christ forgave you, not because the people who hurt you deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. I want you to do something right now that might be the hardest thing you've done in years. Close your eyes if you're in a safe place. Put your hand on your chest and repeat after me out loud. Lord, I release the right to stay angry. I lay down the story where I'm always the victim. I am not abandoned. I am chosen. I leave bitterness here. I'm not packing it. I'm walking into tomorrow free. If you prayed that prayer, if you made that choice, if you're brave enough to leave bitterness behind today, I need you to write in the comments, I am not forgotten. I am packing forward. This is a public act of faith. This is you telling heaven, hell, and everyone watching that you refuse to let yesterday's pain cancel tomorrow's promise. But now comes the question that will determine whether this moment was just emotion or actual transformation. Because leaving bitterness behind creates space. Empty space. And that space must be filled with something, or bitterness will quietly sneak back in when you're not looking. So what do you pack instead? What does God want you to carry into tomorrow that will sustain you, strengthen you, and prove to the enemy that this time you're not turning back? Now we're going to do something you've never done before. Not in church, not in prayer, not in all the decades you've walked with God. We're going to pack together. Right now, I need you to do something for me. If you can, sit up a little straighter. Put your feet flat on the floor. Feel the ground beneath you. You're still here, you're still breathing. That's not an accident. Now take one deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slow. Good. Now I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. In your mind, I want you to see a suitcase in front of you. It's old. Maybe it's got scuff marks, a broken latch you had to tie with rope. It's been through some miles, hasn't it? Kind of like you. But it's sturdy. It survived, just like you. Open your eyes. Stay with me. You see, most people think packing is about stuff, clothes, toiletries, medications. But when God says, pack everything, He's not talking about your pill organizer. He's talking about what you've been carrying in your spirit for the last 50, 60, 70 years. And beloved, some of what you've been carrying was never meant to make the trip. Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." But here's what breaks my heart. You've been carrying burdens He already offered to take. You've been dragging weight into tomorrow that was supposed to stay in yesterday. So right now, in your spirit, I want you to pack your first bag. Pack your faith. Every single prayer you ever prayed when your voice was shaking. Every time you whispered, "God, are you there?" in an empty house. Every moment you chose to believe when your eyes saw nothing but darkness. That faith, pack it. It's coming with you. The widow in 1 Kings 17 had one meal left, one handful of flour, one drop of oil. She was packing for death. But when she obeyed the prophet, that jar never ran empty. Your faith has been tested like that widow's oil. It looked like it was running out. But it never did it? You're still here. Pack that faith. Now pack your second bag. This one's heavier. This one's going to hurt. Pack your forgiveness. That name that just flashed through your mind. The person who hurt you 30 years ago and never apologized. The child who abandoned you. The spouse who betrayed you. The church that rejected you when you needed them most. You think you can't pack forgiveness because they don't deserve it. But listen to me carefully. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. Ephesians 4:32 says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." You're not packing forgiveness for their freedom, you're packing it for yours. Because here's the truth that's going to wreck you. If you try to drag unforgiveness into tomorrow, God's going to make you unpack everything and start over. You cannot carry both bitterness and blessing. You cannot pack both grudges and grace. Choose right now. Who are you finally going to release? Third bag, pack your obedience, your yes to what God's about to ask. And I'm not talking about the easy stuff. I'm talking about the phone call He's been telling you to make. The conversation He's been nudging you to have. The dream He planted in your chest that you've been calling too late for 20 years. Abraham was 75 when God said, "Pack everything and go." 75. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't have GPS. He didn't have a retirement plan. He had obedience. And Genesis 12:4 says one thing that changed human history. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him. 5 words. So Abram went. That's it. That's the whole secret. Pack your obedience to go where He says, when He says, even if it makes 0 sense. Fourth bag. This is the one that separates the survivors from the sojourners. Pack your expectation. Not hope, not wishful thinking. Expectation. The absolute certainty that God is not done with you yet. That your best days aren't behind you. That tomorrow isn't just another Tuesday. That something is about to break open that will make the last decade of waiting worth every single tear. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." You can't see tomorrow yet, but you can expect it. Pack that expectation like you're packing for a wedding, not a funeral. Now here's the hard part. I want you to picture something else. Picture bitterness sitting next to your suitcase. Picture self-pity. Picture that sentence you've been repeating for years. "Nothing good ever happens for me." See it written on a crumpled piece of paper. Stained. Ugly. Familiar. Now watch yourself pick it up. Feel the weight of it. All those years of believing you were forgotten, overlooked, too old, too late, too broken. And now drop it. Drop it in the trash can behind you, not in your suitcase, in the trash. Because where you're going, that lie isn't invited. Listen to me. Hell is terrified of what you're packing right now. The enemy has spent decades convincing you to carry the wrong things. But this moment, this is you finally getting it right. So, right now, out loud if you can, whisper this prayer with me. Lord, stamp this suitcase with your name. Mark it, seal it, make it clear to every demon in hell and every angel in heaven, this life is under divine relocation. What I'm packing is yours. Where I'm going is yours. Who I'm becoming is yours. Now hear it. In your spirit, hear the zipper close. Hear it click. That sound, that's the sound of finality. Tomorrow is not a threat anymore. It's an appointment, and you just confirmed it. If this moment hit you, if something shifted in your chest, don't let it stay on this screen. After we're done, call someone. Tell them, I packed for tomorrow with God today. And if you haven't yet, stay connected here. Not for my sake, but because chosen ones don't travel solo. You're going to need this family when tomorrow comes. But here's what nobody's telling you about this divine relocation. God doesn't just move you. He moves through you. And what He's about to do in your life is going to require something you stopped believing you had. Are you ready to discover what that is? You know what nobody tells you about packing for God's move. There's always a hallway. Let me paint you a picture you know too well. It's 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in Queens. You're sitting in that fluorescent-lit corridor at Mount Sinai Hospital, waiting. The nurse said just a few more minutes 45 minutes ago. Your coffee's gone cold in that paper cup. The vinyl chair is digging into your back. And all you can do is stare at those white walls and wonder how much longer. You know that hallway, don't you? That terrible in-between space where you're not in the room anymore, but you're not where you're going yet either. That's exactly where you are right now, chosen one. Not in Egypt, not in the promised land. You're in the hallway. And I need you to understand something that's going to change everything about how you see this season. You're not stuck. You're in the hallway. See, you already left the old room. That marriage that defined you for 43 years? Gone. That career you built for decades? Retired. That version of yourself who knew exactly who you were and what you were doing, she doesn't live here anymore. You packed up. You walked out. The door closed behind you. But the new door, the one God promised, it's not open yet. And you're standing in this narrow, confusing space, wondering if you made a terrible mistake, wondering if you misheard God, wondering if maybe you should just go back to the old room, even though you know it's locked. Listen to me, the hallway is not your failure. The hallway is proof you moved. You know those government offices down on Chambers Street in Manhattan? The ones where you waited 3 hours just to get your Social Security straightened out? Remember sitting on those hard plastic chairs, number 247 inches your hand, watching 186 flash on that screen, hour after hour, people coming and going, your turn never seeming to come. That's what the in-between feels like, doesn't it? Like you took a number from God, and now you're just waiting. Watching everyone else get called, watching younger people walk past you into their destinies while you're still sitting there with your crumpled ticket, wondering if the system broke, if they lost your name, if you'll die right here in this chair before they ever call you forward. But what if I told you the hallway has always been part of God's plan? Look at the Israelites, Exodus 14. They left Egypt. They packed everything, just like God said. They walked out of slavery, singing songs of victory. But then what happened? They got to the Red Sea, and suddenly there was nowhere to go. Egypt behind them, an uncrossable ocean in front of them, and Pharaoh's army charging toward them at full speed. They weren't stuck. They were in the hallway. And that hallway was exactly where God wanted them, because that's where He does His most impossible work. You're not stuck. You're in the hallway. Or think about Simeon in Luke 2:25-3-2. This elderly man spent his entire life in the temple, waiting day after day, year after year, decade after decade. His whole existence was one long hallway of expectation. The Bible says the Holy Spirit revealed to him that he wouldn't die until he'd seen the Messiah. But then what? Years passed. His hair turned grey, his back bent, his friends died. And still he waited in that hallway called hope. But when Mary and Joseph walked through those temple doors carrying baby Jesus, Simeon's hallway ended. He took that child in his ancient arms and said, "Lord, now let your servant depart in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation." The hallway wasn't wasted time. The hallway was preparation for the most important moment of his entire life. Can I tell you what you really know about hallways? You know the sound of them, the echo of footsteps on linoleum at 2 a.m. when the nurse finally comes to tell you the surgery's over, the whispered conversations between doctors that you're not supposed to hear, the way your own breathing sounds different in those narrow spaces. You know the funeral home hallway, the one between the viewing room and the exit, the longest 30 feet you ever walked, the smell of carnations mixed with grief, the way people touched your shoulder as you passed but didn't know what to say. You know the DMV line that wrapped around the building in the August heat, 2 hours standing, your feet screaming, just to renew a license that proves you still exist. You know waiting rooms where CNN plays on mute and magazines are 6 months old and time moves like honey in winter. You know hallways, beloved. God knows you know hallways, and He's put you in one right now because hallways are where faith gets real. Hallways are where you can't see the end, but you have to keep walking anyway. Hallways are where your legs hurt and your heart hurts, and you can't go back and you can't see forward, but you take one more step because what other choice is there? You're not stuck. You're in the hallway. And here's the prophetic word that's going to anchor your soul. The confusion you feel right now is not failure. It's transition. That disorientation, that sense of not knowing who you are anymore, that feeling of floating between two worlds, that's not evidence that you missed God. That's evidence that you obeyed God. You left the old room, the door closed, you can't go back even if you wanted to, and the new room hasn't opened yet because God's not finished preparing it. Or maybe God's not finished preparing you, but you're not stuck. You're in the hallway with God, and He's never lost anyone in a hallway yet. So, I need you to do something right now. Don't just think it. Say it out loud if you can. Whisper it if you have to. But say it. I'm not stuck. I'm in the hallway with God. Say it again. I'm not stuck. I'm in the hallway with God. One more time, like you believe it. I'm not stuck. I'm in the hallway with God. But here's the question that's going to determine whether you make it to the other side. What are you doing in this hallway while you wait? You think you're standing still. You look around your life and see the same four walls, the same aching joints, the same stack of bills on the kitchen counter. Nothing's changed, right? Wrong. What if I told you that right now, even as you sit there wondering if God forgot about you, you're already moving? The transit has already begun. You just didn't recognize the signs because you've been looking for the wrong kind of motion. Let me show you 3 undeniable markers that prove you're already in divine transit, whether you feel it or not. Sign number 1, your prayers sound different. Think back 6 months, a year, 5 years. What did you pray for then? You begged God to take away the loneliness. You pleaded with Him to remove the financial pressure. You cried out for Him to just make the pain stop. Am I right? But lately, something shifted. You still hurt, but your prayers don't sound the same anymore. Now you're saying things like, God, if you can use this pain to help somebody else. Now you're whispering, Lord, don't waste what I've been through. Now you're asking Him not to remove the burden, but to give you strength to carry it with purpose. That's not coincidence, chosen one. That's movement. When your prayers shift from get me out to use me here, you've crossed a threshold most people never reach. You've moved from victim to vessel, from survivor to warrior. Job understood this. He sat in ashes, covered in boils, and said in Job 13:15, though He slay me, yet will I trust in Him. That wasn't resignation, that was transformation. That was a man in transit from pain to purpose. Pain plus purpose equals motion. Write that down. When suffering stops being about you and starts being about who you can help with what you've learned, you've already packed your most important belonging, your testimony. Sign number 2. Old temptations feel empty. Here's something nobody talks about in church, but I'm going to say it plain. You used to get a little kick out of the gossip, didn't you? That phone call where you and your friend tore apart the pastor's wife or the neighbor who's too good for everyone. It felt good for about 10 minutes. But lately, it tastes like ash in your mouth. The bitterness you nursed for years against your ex-spouse, against the children who don't call, against the boss who passed you over for that promotion 30 years ago. It used to fuel you. Now, it just exhausts you. The complaining that once bonded you with other bitter people, now it leaves a bad aftertaste, like milk that's turned. You know what that is? That's your spirit moving on even while your body's still in the same zip code. When the things that used to satisfy you spiritually start making you sick, that's God packing your appetite for something higher. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You're being renovated from the inside out. Your taste buds are changing. What fed your flesh is starving your spirit now. This is transit, beloved. You're leaving behind the Egypt of who you used to be. And even though you haven't crossed the Red Sea yet, you can't stomach Egyptian food anymore. Sign number 3. New, small opportunities show up. Pay attention to this one because it's easy to miss. In the last few weeks or months, have small things started showing up? A neighbor you barely know suddenly crosses your mind, and you feel this tug to check on them. A grandchild who never asks for anything suddenly calls and says, "Grandma, would you pray for me?" The church you walked away from 5 years ago sends you a letter about a new ministry for seniors. You think those are random? You think that's coincidence? No. Those are your new orders, arriving before you even knew you were being deployed. God doesn't move you in one giant leap. He moves you in inches disguised as moments. Every small yes you give to those gentle nudges is you stepping into the truck that's already loaded with your destiny. Esther didn't wake up queen. She took one step after another until she found herself in position for such a time as this. These aren't interruptions to your quiet retirement, dear one. These are transit signs, divine breadcrumbs leading you to the next assignment you didn't know you were qualified for. If one of those 3 signs just grabbed you by the throat, if you felt your chest tighten with recognition, whisper it right now. I am in transit, even if I can't see the map. Write in the comments, I see the signs. This isn't just interaction, this is you agreeing with heaven's movement in your life. But I need to warn you about something. Every real transit season includes one thing you're going to hate. In just a moment, we're going to talk about the last-minute attacks that make you question if God is moving at all, or if you've lost your mind believing he still cares about someone your age. Because the devil doesn't attack people who are standing still. He attacks people who are moving. You know what nobody tells you about obedience? The second you say yes to God, all hell breaks loose. I'm talking to someone right now who finally surrendered. You finally let go of that bitterness you've been nursing for 15 years. You finally forgave that person who destroyed you. You finally said, God, I trust you with my tomorrow. And then what happened? Your blood pressure spiked. Your daughter called screaming about something that happened 20 years ago. That bill you weren't expecting showed up in the mail. Old memories started flooding back at 2 a.m. like demons you thought you'd buried. And you're sitting there thinking, did I do something wrong? Did I make God angry? Maybe I should just go back to my old life. Stop right there, beloved. Let me tell you exactly what's happening to you. You ever been through airport security? Of course you have. You know what happens right before you board that plane. They don't just glance at your bag. They shake it. They open every pocket. They check everything twice. Security is most intense right before you cross into the departure zone. Not at the entrance, not in the parking lot, right at the gate. That's exactly where you are spiritually right now. The closer you get to your promised land, the harder the enemy shakes your faith, because he knows something you're just starting to remember. He knows that once you cross this threshold, once you step into tomorrow with everything packed in faith, there's no bringing you back. You'll be too dangerous, too anointed, too free. So what does he do? He hits you with everything he's got right at the edge. Storms at the edge, pressure at the border, noise at the doorway. Listen to me carefully. That sudden health flare-up that came out of nowhere, that's not God punishing your obedience. That's hell panicking because you're about to walk into healing that will testify to your entire family. That financial pressure that just showed up, that's not evidence you missed God's will. That's the enemy trying to make you unpack your faith and settle back into survival mode. You think I'm making this up? Let me show you something straight from Scripture. Mark chapter 4. Jesus looks at his disciples and says 5 simple words. Let us cross over. Not maybe we'll cross over. Not if the weather's nice. Let us cross over. Divine intention, prophetic declaration. The Son of God himself announcing their destination. And what happened the second they obeyed and got in that boat? Mark 4:37 says, a furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Did you catch that? They didn't encounter the storm because they disobeyed. They hit the storm because they obeyed. The storm came precisely because they were crossing over to the other side, where Jesus was about to set a demon-possessed man free and display his glory. The storm wasn't a stop sign. It was a confirmation they were on the right path. Your storm isn't God saying, turn back. It's hell screaming, we're losing them. But here's what breaks my heart. I've watched too many chosen ones turn the boat around 3 feet from shore. I've seen too many seniors who survived 70 years of hell quit right before their deliverance because the final wave looked too big. I've watched people unpack their faith and settle back into Egypt because the wilderness got loud right before Canaan. Don't you dare be one of them. That pressure you're feeling isn't punishment. It's proof. Proof that you're crossing over. Proof that your tomorrow is real. Proof that the enemy knows his time to torment you is running out. Storms at the edge. Pressure at the border. Noise at the doorway. Think about what's been hitting you lately. Maybe it's your body. Arthritis flaring up worse than it has in months. Your doctor wants to run more tests. Your medications aren't working like they used to. And the enemy whispers, "See? You're too old. You're too sick. God's not moving you anywhere." That's a lie from the pit of hell. Or maybe it's your family. Suddenly, everybody's got an opinion about your life. Your son, who hasn't called in 6 months, is now calling every day with crisis after crisis. Your daughter's bringing up ancient history. Grandkids need money. Drama you thought was buried is rising from the grave. Let me tell you what's really happening. The enemy is using everyone in your orbit to create chaos because he knows that chaos makes you freeze. Confusion makes you doubt. Drama makes you unpack. But you're not unpacking. Not this time. Because here's what you need to understand. The intensity of the attack is directly proportional to the size of your breakthrough. Small attacks mean small victories, but the warfare you're experiencing right now, that level of pressure, that means what's waiting for you on the other side is so massive, so life-altering, so generationally significant that hell had to mobilize everything it had to stop you. Storms at the edge, pressure at the border, noise at the doorway. If you've felt the hits increase in the last few weeks, if it seems like everything's falling apart right after you finally surrendered, don't curse this season. Don't question your obedience. Don't unpack your faith. Just say this out loud right now. This pressure is proof I'm close. Say it again. This pressure is proof I'm close. That simple sentence just saved some of you from turning around when you're 3 steps from your miracle. But here's the question that's going to determine everything. What are you actually supposed to pack for this journey? You know what breaks my heart? It's when I hear from chosen ones who think God's silence means God's absence. You've been praying for months, maybe years, and heaven feels like it's on permanent voicemail. You whisper his name at 2 a.m. and hear nothing back. So you've convinced yourself that he's moved on, that he's busy with younger believers, that your season has passed. But what if I told you something that's going to shatter that lie forever? What if God's silence doesn't mean he's sitting still? What if it means he's too busy rearranging your entire world to stop and explain every detail? Think about this. When you moved apartments in Brooklyn 40 years ago, what did it look like? Total chaos, right? Boxes everywhere, furniture wrapped in blankets, papers scattered across the floor. Your neighbor probably walked by and thought, "What a mess." But you knew something they didn't. You knew that every single piece of that chaos was coordinated. Someone was packing the kitchen while someone else labeled the bedroom boxes. The moving truck was being loaded in perfect order, even though it looked random. Heaven is running a moving company for your life right now. And just like that Brooklyn move, you can't see all the parts working together, but they are. Dear one, they are. Right now, this very second, somebody across town has your name on their mind, and they don't even know why. A doctor is reviewing a case file and making a decision that's going to impact your health in ways you can't imagine yet. Your grandchild is wrestling with God in their college dorm room, and somehow your face keeps appearing in their thoughts. A stranger is being positioned to cross your path next week with exactly what you've been praying for. You think heaven forgot about you. Heaven is working overtime for you. Listen to what the Apostle Paul discovered in Romans 8:28. He said, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." Did you catch that word? Together. Not some things. Not the easy things. All things are working together like a perfectly coordinated moving crew. That bill you can't pay? It's being worked on. That relationship that's broken. Heaven's got movers assigned to it. That health issue that terrifies you when you wake up. There's a whole team in the spiritual realm coordinating your healing right now. But here's what you need to understand about God's hidden logistics. He doesn't owe you a play-by-play. He's not required to explain every truck route, every box label, every detail of the move. What he's required to do is get you from where you are to where you're supposed to be. And beloved, he's never missed a deadline. You've been measuring God's activity by what you can see. But what if the most important work is happening in places you can't see yet? What if that silent month was God repositioning people? What if that unanswered prayer was heaven saying, "Not that way, we've got a better route"? What if the door that slammed in your face last year was actually God's movers, blocking you from a disaster you'll never even know you avoided? I'm talking to the grandmother in the Bronx who's been praying for her son for 17 years. You think God hasn't heard you? He's been working on that boy's heart in ways that would blow your mind if you could see the spiritual realm. Every no your son gave you, heaven was documenting. Every tear you cried, God was collecting. And right now, there are angels assigned specifically to that situation, moving furniture in the invisible world, rearranging circumstances, positioning people. The logistics are happening, you just can't see the paperwork yet. I'm talking to the widower in Queens who's been alone in that apartment for 3 years since she passed. You think God doesn't see you eating dinner by yourself every night? He's already arranged your next chapter. The movers are wrapping it up right now. The truck is being loaded. You just haven't gotten the call yet that says, "We're on our way." Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. The reason he's been whispering God forgot you is because he can see what you can't. He sees heaven's moving trucks pulling up to your spiritual address. He sees the inventory list with your name at the top. He sees the coordination happening behind the scenes, and it terrifies him. Because when God moves you, he doesn't just change your location, he changes your entire reality. But you have to trust the process, chosen one. You have to believe that silence doesn't equal stillness. You have to know in your bones that just because you can't see the movers doesn't mean they're not packing your miracle right now. God's silence doesn't mean he's sitting down. It often means he's too busy rearranging things to stop and comfort your doubts. So let me ask you something that's going to determine everything. Are you going to keep measuring God's faithfulness by what you see, or are you finally going to trust that heaven's logistics are more reliable than anything your natural eyes could confirm? If this is helping you breathe a little easier, if something in your chest just loosened up, say it right now in the comments. Heaven is busy for me. You're not just typing words. You're aligning with truth that's been working on your behalf while you've been sleeping. But now we need to talk about something critical. Because soon, very soon, we're going to step into the moment you've been waiting for. The door is about to open, but here's what most people miss, and it costs them everything. What if that door doesn't look like what you expected? What if your miracle shows up wearing work clothes instead of a 3-piece suit? What if your breakthrough knocks quietly instead of kicking the door down? You need to understand what that door might look like, so you don't walk right past it when it finally appears. Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you might shatter everything you've been waiting for. You've been standing at the window for years, watching for that door to open, and in your mind, you've got it all figured out, don't you? That door looks like $1 million lottery ticket landing in your mailbox. It looks like your doctor calling with the words, "complete remission." It looks like all 3 of your children showing up on your doorstep with tears streaming down their faces, saying, "Mom, Dad, we're so sorry, we were wrong, we love you." You've been waiting for the earthquake, the fire, the Hollywood ending. But what if I told you that while you've been staring at the sky waiting for thunder, God's been whispering at your kitchen table? Here's the hard truth that's going to cut you deep. Most of the time, the door God opens doesn't look like the movie playing in your head. It doesn't come with orchestral music and slow-motion reunions. It comes quiet, humble, So subtle that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it completely. And beloved, that's exactly why so many people die with their blessing 3 feet away, never knowing it was right there the whole time. Think about Elijah. This man had just called down fire from heaven. Fire. He'd made God show up in front of 450 false prophets and embarrass them all. 1 Kings chapter 18 tells us the fire consumed not just the sacrifice, but the stones, the dust, and even licked up the water in the trench. That's the kind of power Elijah knew. But then Jezebel threatened him, and he ran. He ran all the way to a cave, depressed, defeated, ready to die. And there, broken and alone, God told him to stand on the mountain because the Lord was about to pass by. 1 Kings 19:11 says, "A great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind." Elijah's watching, waiting. That wind could have knocked him flat. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. The ground is shaking beneath his feet. Surely this is it. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. Now Elijah's confused, because fire is what he knows. Fire is what he's seen God use before. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. A whisper, not a shout, not thunder. A whisper so soft that if Elijah hadn't been paying attention, if he'd still been looking for the spectacular, he would have missed the voice of God entirely. You hear me? You're looking for fire. God's standing in the whisper. For some of you right now, the door you've been praying for has already cracked open, but you walked right past it because it didn't look impressive enough. It didn't feel big enough. It didn't match the fantasy you've been rehearsing in your mind for 20 years. Maybe the door is that strange peace that settled over your mind last Tuesday. You've been fighting anxiety for 40 years, and suddenly, for no logical reason, you felt calm. That wasn't random. That was a door. Maybe the door is that phone call from your estranged sister. She didn't apologize for everything. She didn't fall on her knees begging forgiveness, but she called. After 6 years of silence, she called and said, "How are you?" 5 words. That's your door. Maybe the door is that you walked to the mailbox yesterday without your cane, and you didn't even realize it until you got back inside. Your body's been failing for years, and yesterday you had strength you didn't have last month. That's not age working backwards, that's a door. Maybe the door is that quiet nudge you felt to start mentoring that young woman at church. You dismissed it because you thought, "I'm nobody special. What could I possibly offer?" But that nudge won't leave you alone. That's God opening a door into purpose you never imagined. The enemy wants you chasing fantasy doors while you walk past real ones. He wants you so focused on the $1 million miracle that you miss the $5 blessing that was supposed to multiply. He wants you waiting for every child to come home when God's trying to heal your relationship with just one of them first. Stop. Close your eyes for just a moment. I'm serious. If you're somewhere safe, close your eyes and ask God this one question. Lord, show me one door you've already opened that I haven't recognized. Give him 10 seconds of silence, just 10 seconds. Let him speak. What came to your mind? That thing that just flickered across your thoughts? Don't dismiss it. Don't say, "That's too small to be God." Because I'm telling you right now, that small thing might be the very door that leads to everything you've been praying for. See, God doesn't need to impress you. He's already the Almighty. He needs you to trust him. And trust is built in the whisper, not the wind. For some of you, that random invite to join that Bible study, that slight improvement in your blood pressure, that small idea that keeps coming back about writing down your story, that unexpected refund check for $63 when you needed exactly $63, that neighbor who suddenly started waving at you every morning after years of silence. Those aren't coincidences, those are doors. The question that will determine your entire future is this: will you have the humility to walk through a door that doesn't look important enough? Will you have the faith to steward the whisper when you were expecting thunder? Write it down right now. I don't care if it's in a notebook, on your phone, or in the comments below. Write, "My door might be," and finish that sentence. Because the moment you acknowledge what God's already doing, you give Him permission to do more. Your tomorrow doesn't start with the fantasy door. It starts with the real one you've been stepping over. But here's what most people don't understand about walking through God's doors. And this is where everything you thought you knew about faith is about to get turned upside down. Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred hour together, I need you to hold on to 3 truths that will carry you through tomorrow and every day that follows. First, when God says tomorrow, He's not talking about your calendar. He's talking about divine timing colliding with your willingness to move. The shift you've been praying for isn't coming someday. It's here, right now, today. Second, packing for tomorrow means letting go of what's been weighing you down. The bitterness over what didn't happen, the regret over what you didn't do, the voice that keeps whispering, "You're too old, too late, too broken." Leave that baggage behind. Pack your faith instead. And third, the door God opens rarely looks like the movie in your head. It's quiet, it's humble, it's that whisper you almost missed. Don't despise small beginnings. Don't walk past real doors while chasing fantasy ones. But here's what I need you to know deep in your bones. You are not walking this journey alone. The God who spoke your name before time began is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't moved on. He's been positioning you for this exact season. And beyond God's presence, you have a family right here. Look at these comments. See these hearts connecting. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a community of chosen ones who understand what it means to pack everything when the world says you're done. We're here. We see you. We will pray with you. So let me ask you this. Now that you know tomorrow is here, what will you pack? And more importantly, what will you finally leave behind? Let me pray over you before you go. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul watching this right now. Lord, they've been waiting so long, they've been hurt so deeply, they've been disappointed so many times. But tonight, breathe fresh hope into their weary spirits. Open their eyes to see the doors you've already opened. Give them courage to walk through, even when the door looks different than they imagined. God, pack their hearts with faith that can move mountains. Pack their minds with peace that passes understanding. Pack their spirits with boldness to step into tomorrow without fear. And strip away every weight that's been holding them back. Every regret, every shame, every lie that said they were finished. Father, bless their tomorrow. Bless their families. Bless their health. Bless their finances. Bless their purpose. Let them wake up knowing they're loved, they're chosen, and they're right on time for everything you have planned. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell us, what's one thing you're packing for tomorrow? What's one thing you're leaving behind? Don't hold back. This community will surround you with prayer and encouragement. And if this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear that their tomorrow starts today. Someone who feels forgotten. Someone who thinks it's too late. Remind them they're not alone. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Every week, we're unpacking truth that sets captives free. Your tomorrow is here, chosen one. Now, go pack everything that matters. God bless you mightily.